Hey y'all, busy season. We're full in it. Middle of October on the nose here. Hopefully morale is good. Hopefully everybody's hanging in there. Um, I think based on feedback we heard, not everybody could make kind of our uh, FAFSA CSS instructions a couple weeks ago, so we had a few requests that we could do that again. So, at the risk of being redundant from 2 weeks ago, and you can leave us if you were there 2 weeks ago and you feel like you're all over it, I'm going to do some version of that again. So, really kind of get into the financial aid applications themselves. Just make sure you guys are comfortable, with some of the smaller changes from last year. And again, you feel like you're armed to answer questions as you get them from parents, students, etc. As always, please fire away with all of your questions. Just put those in the Q&A, and I will do my best to get to all of them. Doesn't have to be related to what we're talking about at all here. So again, just any questions you have around this scholarship, financial aid, affordability world, please fire at will. And I want to share, let's see, a couple of links with you. We are doing a line by line through the FAFSA and through the CSS profile presentation both tomorrow night. Let me share and grab these links. So we're doing one, oh, sorry, third. What's today? Wednesday? Yes. So tomorrow night, 7 Eastern time. If you want to share this with families, with students, parents, etc., in your district or at your school, that is for tomorrow night, and then we are doing our last one, barring the unexpected. We're doing our last line by line um, CSS profile and FAFSA walkthrough next week, 10/22. So I will put that in the chat here as well. So feel free to share those out with whoever you think might benefit. And again, that's a great opportunity where there's always two of us where we will do again best practices, not just like here's where to get your FSID and things like this, but make sure you're not putting your retirement accounts on the FAFSA. Make sure you're not including the 529 for the younger siblings. We're not putting our primary residence home equity on the FAFSA. And again, similar kind of tips and best practices from the CSS profile. So please feel free to share those. Two other resources that I will share here again. I think you all we try to share this, but this is just I think another good thing that if you like to share things and free resources with your community, this is a pretty comprehensive one. I just put this in there, right? Some pretty cool stuff. Like every single college that offers full scholarships, right? We have that in there. This is kind of an ebook, all things financial aid and scholarships. And again, our kind of PDF guide through the FAFSA, through the CSS profile, which colleges have tuition reciprocity. So, um, I think a whole bunch of different helpful resources that should be helpful to share with your community. Put it on your website. However you want to get that information out. Put it in your newsletter. And if you are a high school that does not currently partner with us, let me just show you this one last thing here. And you want us to help you with all things financial aid, etc., etc. I will share this. Yeah, book some time with me, and learn a little bit more about us, how we support school counselors, how we support families, and again, just make sure you're leveraging all of our resources. And most of you know that within our platform, right, within our technology, when it comes to the financial aid forms, we also have this kind of on-demand, line-by-line instructions. It's really helpful. It's designed where families can have this window open as they complete the FAFSA, as they complete the CSS profile, and do that kind of in real time. Play, pause, play, pause. And for those of you that know the fairy godmother of financial aid, Peggy Keogh, she has, in addition to being a subject matter expert, just um, very good bedside manner. So uh, please take advantage of any and all of those resources, and again, fire at will with questions here. And then what I'm going to do for you guys again, like I did 2 weeks ago, at the risk of being redundant, which I think is okay when it comes to this time of year. At least I hope it's okay. I'll give you a watered down version of the this presentation that we do for families, so you have an idea of the content of the slides. Um, let's see, what am I sharing here? Entire screen. And so again, this is a of again knowing that you guys are have a good amount of experience with this. I'm going to go a lot faster and stuff like that. Happy to answer any questions, but obviously when we do this tomorrow night, we'll be a lot slower, be a lot methodical, take questions in real time from parents, and same thing on 1022. But we try to always, if you follow us at all, we do our best to kind of, number one, bring some levity to this stuff. People just are just freaked out and overwhelmed, as you know. So we try to bring some levity and just talk a little bit about the psychological challenges with this whole thing. It's like it's your kids and your money, and people are just freaked out. So we try really hard to do what we can to bring the temperature down. Peggy loves whales. They chill her out, so she likes to kind of share that with families and give some of these tips that'll help keep your sanity, right? Take your break, take your time. You can save it and come back later. If you make a mistake, nothing is irreversible. Obviously, we want to do our best to put our best foot forward the first time. That makes it less clunky. But if we make a mistake, it is okay. Your kid's still going to go to college, and it will not be a disaster. So, again, we try to bake in the kind of X's and O's of the FAFSA, of the CSS profile, with I don't know, the touchy feely stuff, if you will. Why should submit financial aid forms, right? Many families don't know that some colleges, in order to be considered for merit-based scholarships, require the FAFSA and the CSS profile. NYU is a great example of that. Don't disqualify yourself, right? We have a podcast. Please listen to us if you don't listen to us. But once a week, every Thursday, we have our college podcast. It's actually in that school counselor page that I shared with you. But Kevin Murphy and I shot that yesterday. It'll be released tomorrow, but we go over some case studies. In some cases, families that have over $1 million in adjusted gross income, 600,000 in adjusted gross income, getting need-based financial aid, right? So don't be one of those. Usually, if you don't apply for financial aid freshman year, you don't get to change your mind sophomore, junior, senior year. So you're telling that college, I'm paying full sticker price for all 4 years, right? If you don't apply for freshman year. And of course, if you want to be eligible for any federal loan programs, got to complete the FAFSA. Here's our fairy godmother's three commandments, right? We got to be honest. These are your names going on these forms. We're going to sign them, right, as students and parents. But don't overestimate. If we're going to miss on a side, we're going to miss on a side that benefits us, right, not the colleges. And don't overshare. Specifically on the CSS profile, you don't have to answer over 100 questions. Don't answer them, right? There is no competitive advantage to doing so. And as a matter of fact, sometimes there can be a disadvantage to answering questions that are not required to be answered. So, again, day one stuff with the FAFSA, right? Here's the financial aid applications. Here's how and where to create your FSA ID. I won't bother you all with that. But then we will spend some time with, like, okay, who needs an FSA ID, right? And we'll go through kind of each of the scenarios. So obviously, if we're married filing jointly, we only need one of the parents to create an FSA ID. But if we file separately, we need both parents to create the FSA ID. If we're divorced or separated, right, only the parent that is completing the FAFSA, or the household, I should say, that's completing the FAFSA, needs to create an FSA ID. And then, of course, we will spend some time talking about, well, if I am divorced or separated, which parent should complete the FAFSA, right? And there's some really, like, counterintuitive stuff there. Doesn't matter where the student lives. Has nothing to do with who completes a FAFSA. Doesn't matter who claims a student as an exemption on tax returns. Completely irrelevant, right? So it's this, as you all know, whoever provides the most financial support to the student is the one that completes the FAFSA. And a lot of times family have the ability to be smart here, be strategic, use this new rule to their advantage to get more discounts for college, still completely within the rules of the game, right? If you have the ability to do so. So we'll spend time talking through that and also making sure that they understand that it is not just, if you are paying child support, that doesn't mean you're providing that financial support to the student. That's actually going to the parent. It's who's providing more financial support directly to the student. So obviously there's a whole bunch of different scenarios here that can be complex, and we'll just go through a bunch of kind of real world examples to hopefully help families that have this additional layer, additional challenge here. Um, they feel pretty comfortable with how it should play out. We'll also take this opportunity to say, hey, look at, I think we actually do it on the CSS profile part. Yeah, we do. So I'll sit tight on that. And then this is something that can change from one year to the next. That's confusing for families, right? And oftentimes does. Like just because you do this parent completes a FAFSA fresh or going into freshman year of college, it might change, sophomore year and moving forward. So we try to have screenshots basically of each page of the FAFSA and the CSS profile, or at least the ones that are most prominent. Help them understand, where they should be. This is a big one, and just like keep this in your back pocket if you are advising families or students hands-on with the FAFSA. It makes this process so much easier if the student completes and submits their part of the FAFSA first. It will still work. You'll still get it across the finish line if the parent completes their section first, but it's way more of a pain, way more clunky. You're going to be banging your head against the wall if you do it that way. So the order of operations matters. We want to complete the student section first. Again, we're not screwed if we don't do it that way, but this is best practice, and it's not even close. Okay. They're going to have to kind of sign off here and say like I opt in, right? Here's the fine print. Once they do that, the information from the IRS will be automatically uploaded. That's both from the parents and the students. Even if they don't file, even if the student doesn't file, they're still going to go to the IRS website and confirm that, okay, that this family did in fact not file. For most families, they're going to check this box. None of these apply, right? Unless a student has a unique situation, and all of them are kind of laid out here, where they're above 24 years old, they're considered dependents. Their parents' information is going to be required. So you guys probably run into this where some families are completely they're not trying to pull a fast one. They're just sincerely they're saying, I'm not paying anything for college. Okay, I'm the parent and my kid is on their own. If they want to go to college, that is their decision, and that is, but they are 100% financially on the hook. Colleges don't care. The Department of Education doesn't care. They're going to require that parent's information, whether they're contributing or not, until the student's 24 years old, or we fit into one of these categories. I would say the most common ones are, students that maybe live with grandparents, okay, but they are the legal guardians, not parents, right? They want to make sure that they check this box. And even if you think, guys, even if you're not sure, like you're working with one of these challenging situations where, you know, uh, the parents are not involved, or it's not a good situation, err on the side of checking one of these boxes, okay? And usually the last two are kind of the quote unquote easiest to check, because these situations where the kids should be considered independents, right? Err on that side and then get ready to have the conversation with the individual colleges, but check one of those last two boxes. Okay. Yeah, and the line by line instructions for the FAFSA and the CSS profile is within the MyCap platform. Okay, so it is within mycap.collegeaidpro.com. Yeah, the line by line instructions for the FAFSA in the CSS profile. It's within the parent platform. Okay. And then again, this is just kind of an outline for each of the steps that come after this. Uh, Again, unless we're in one of those funky situations, we're just hitting no here. So just hit no. I won't bore you with the details, but that is going to be the answer to that question. Nice thing now we can add up to 20 colleges, right? So that's good. It was historically until last year it was only 10 colleges, but as you all know, more and more kids are applying to more than 10 colleges. So that was always a big pain. We still have plenty of kids. that will apply to more than 20 colleges. So we will walk them through at this point of the presentation. If your kid's one of those kids applying to 20 colleges, you need to submit it to the first 20. It takes 2 or 3 days to process. Then you're going to log back in, delete 5 of them that have been submitted, add the additional 5, and resubmit the FAFSA. So again, obviously, we will be more deliberate in how we explain it, but we'll show them how to do that. And then we're going to invite our parent here towards the end, put in the appropriate email, double check, send that invite, and we're off to the races, right? So, and the last step is just to kind of sign our um, uh, student section, right? So we have submitted that. Okay, this is kind of the last step here, and then obviously we're going to show them how the parents log into their account, right, through their FSA ID. They will see within within their account that they have been invited, right, and they will log in. Through the link there and complete their couple parts that are remaining on the FAFSA. So again, I know I breezed through that through you all. We take our time more with parents, but hopefully that kind of gives you an idea. And again, happy to answer any questions if you have them. The CSS profile, obviously, this is more of a beast, but is going to be relevant for um, probably more parents than it is not. This is where we'll spend some time talking about, hey, only one household completes the FAFSA, but if you're divorced or separated and applying to CSS profile schools, um, in most cases, that's going to be required from both households, right? So the custodial household, the non-custodial household, and again, that information is required. If you do not have the ability to get it, right? So you don't know where the ex-spouse is, or they are, we got a nasty situation, or maybe even, there's a restraining order in place. It would not be safe to reach out to this person. Obviously, those, situations are the reality, right? More than we would like them to be. And those families need to reach out to those colleges individually and apply for the non-custodial waiver, which I know I'm sure you guys have all had experience signing off on those as a third party there that they require. Not a pleasant experience, right? We'll talk about that. These colleges are going to really make you air your dirty laundry. And it's, kind of nasty, but it's a necessary evil to be able to qualify for this non-custodial waiver. Okay, a couple particular questions here. Let me rattle them off. So, parents worried he made a mistake. He put a total in line 5A from a past 401k that rolled over. So he put a dollar in 5B. His SAI was a lot higher than the one the CAP software suggested. He's worried they're looking at the 5A number as income. Okay, so this is a very common mistake, and it's very easy to make. In that a family, and this is confusing on the FAFSA specifically that a family has a rollover, 401k rollover, IRA rollover, right? So they're just changing financial institutions from one of their qualified retirement accounts. They're not putting that money in their wallet. They're just kind of basically changing retirement plans. It's not a taxable event, but it shows up on your tax returns. It's easy to make this mistake on the FAFSA, and it can have a huge negative impact on the SAI. Because basically, let's just say this individual had a $200,000 rollover. If we don't report it the correct way on the FAFSA, what will happen is the calculation will state this person had a $200,000 of untaxed income, untaxed. So it's even more than $200,000. So it has this huge negative impact on the SI. It's okay, right? What he is going to have to do is he's going to have to get his 2024 tax transcript. This is not his tax returns, it's a tax transcript. Okay. I would get that. And if just to be extra safe, because some colleges are a pain with this, he should just get his paperwork for this rollover from the financial institution. I guarantee he has it. It's very standard operating procedure. And then he's just going to want to send this to the colleges. I made a mistake on my FAFSA. Here's my tax transcript as well as my rollover paperwork that shows I did not put this money in my wallet. Okay, I just changed financial institutions for who's managing my 401k or my IRA, etc. If any of it was taxable, that will be counted. But again, usually that's none or very little of a kind of traditional rollover. So I'm glad that he this individual kind of flagged it and hopefully had he saw our software and whoa, our SAI is way lower than FAFSA said, and that's very likely the reason. So, again, just go grab that documentation and he'll be fine, right? He'll be able to prove it and get that corrected. Okay. Yeah, I mean, look at the biggest challenges I would say are undocumented students, undocumented parents, and FAFSA has become easier to get this across the finish line, okay, without parents needing a social security number. So this student that has undocumented parents should still be able to get the FAFSA um, across the finish line, right? I know some undocumented students are nervous to even have their names out in the ether at all, right? And to your point, but this anonymous question was, given the current political climate, I can't comment on that obviously in terms of like how quote unquote safe is it for these undocumented parents to again have their names and personally identifiable information out there at all. One would hope it would be okay, but obviously it's like I can't even unfortunately I can't even comment with any like confidence or lack thereof of how that could impact um things that are way bigger than I guess just completing the FAFSA. This is very anecdotal. We haven't obviously we deal with a lot of families that fall somewhere in this bucket that have are not documented, whether it's students, parents, or some combination. We haven't heard any kind of horror stories of this completing the FAFSA being this traceable event, and um, so again, that's incredibly anecdotal, and I wish I could be more helpful, but um, we haven't seen any horror stories on that front, and the student should still be able to get the FAFSA across the finish line, and then obviously they kind of have to make a judgment call. Is it worth taking that, quote unquote risk, I guess. But the other thing is we just have to understand is if we don't take that risk, we're kind of guaranteeing, I don't want to say kind of, we're guaranteeing we're not going to get any financial aid. As I'm saying that out loud, what I would do for that student and advising that student, I'll call each of the colleges that they're considering applying to, and they can do it anonymously, right? They can call the financial aid office anonymously and say, "Here's our challenge. What do you suggest?" And ask the hard questions to them. And it's also maybe worth calling the Department of Education, calling uh, the FAFSA hotline. By the way, if you hit just zero repeatedly when you call the FAFSA hotline, you usually get somebody live pretty quick. But ask that same question, and again, you can do so anonymously. Okay, and you guys know, right? The CSS profile is an absolute beast. Um, but got to do it. Let me just show you something else I think is relevant here within the platform. So, as you know, and I just mentioned that most colleges that require the CSS profile, they also require the non-custodial application if your parents are divorced or separated, but not all of them. So this is a great place to look of like, okay, for every college that we're applying to, what do they require in terms of FAFSA, CSS, IDOC, etc. But like Vanderbilt's a really interesting one where yeah, they require the CSS profile, but they don't require the non-custodial form, and I think University of Chicago is another one here, right? Where University of Chicago is a school that, again, so all that information is baked into our platform here and can be a really good resource as families are trying to figure out, well, which schools are going to give us the most money, right? That's a big part of what we are trying to accomplish within the technology there. Okay. And then again, similar type of deal that we do with the FAFSA, right? We'll kind of bring them through here quasi line by line, and we'll actually will go in live to the CSS profile to give them an idea for that, in addition to the screenshots and give best practices about here's how to add schools. And then of course talk through like, hey, look at required questions are required, but if they're not, um, we're not going to answer them, right? And again, we will walk them through kind of like best practices for each of the screens within the CSS profile. If families make less than 100,000 bucks, they're going to get a waiver. They're not going to have to pay for the form, right? Obviously, everybody else, 25 bucks for the first school and $16 for each thereafter. Okay, so have I heard of a family filling out the CSS profile but not the FAFSA? Would that be a possibility? If so, what are the pros and cons? Colleges that require the CSS profile, they also require the FAFSA. Um, I can't say I've been doing this for 20 years. I can't say that I've ever heard of a family just do the CSS profile and not the FAFSA. Obviously, if we don't do the FAFSA, we are not eligible for any need-based financial aid. Sorry, we're not eligible for any federal need-based financial aid or any of the federal loan programs. Technically, the CSS profile is what's required for the institutional funds. We've had cases where colleges have where a family, usually by accident or oversight or whatever, they sent the FAFSA to the wrong school. They just completed the CSS profile, not the FAFSA for a school. But then the school always says, before we even review your CSS profile and your financial aid kind of application as a whole, we need your FAFSA as well. So I'm not saying this has never happened. Maybe it has, but I've never seen a case where a family has only submitted the CSS profile and still received institutional funds. So I don't know what the use case would be there. I don't know what the pros would be there. I've never. I think, and again, but just because I haven't seen it doesn't mean it's never happened. But when I have seen it, colleges said we're not giving you any financial aid until you complete the FAFSA as well. We need both, right? That's also how they verify their federal tax documentation directly with the IRS. Okay, Duke. Yeah, it is not free to complete the CSS profile. It's 25 bucks for the first school, $16 for each thereafter, unless, as it says on this page here, you make less than 100,000 bucks, right? Um, and we'll make sure that some of these questions can be a little bit tricky when they ask about pension and retirement savings. A lot of families are get confused and they put their entire account balances here as opposed to just what they have contributed towards retirement in the base income year. So in 2024, and even though it says it's just a very common mistake that can cost people money. So we make sure that they do not um, that they do not include that here. Okay. And when we talk about making projections in the future, we don't want to be optimistic here, especially because we don't know what the heck's going to happen. So I don't know. I'm not even done with 2025 yet, much less what's going to happen in 2026. If you get too optimistic here with what you're going to do next year, you can cost yourself money. So we do not want to do that. And then we'll kind of walk them through the mechanics. If you are a divorced, separated family, what does that look like, right? And we'll just kind of go through the X's and O's of that particular situation here. We will spend some time on, okay, what is best practice in terms of like the market value of your home? How should I do this? Is it the assessed? Is it Zillow? Is it Redfin? Is it, what my neighbor just sold their home for, right? So we'll give them best practices here to make sure that they are being smart, right, about this. And then, trusts obviously can get a little. Obviously, we're not talking about a large percentage of the population here, but we will just address it because if there is anybody where it is relevant, this page can get a little bit confusing. So we will walk them through that. Um, and then this question, I'm sure you guys get this a lot, right? Too many parents just lose sleep over this question, like, how much can you pay for college? And it's like, well, I don't want to say too little because what if they don't accept my kid? I don't want to say too much. What if we end up having to pay more money for college, which, by the way, you can do, and these colleges will actually give you less money if you you know put a number here that hurts yourself. So we'll talk them through again. How do we answer this question, right? Best practices there. Um, and then again, we get kind of a whole bunch of questions here as well. Families are tempted to put an answer here, the last part of the CSS profile, which kind of gives you a blank slate. Hey, tell us what you didn't tell us already. What should we know? Do you have any other extenuating circumstances, right? They call special circumstances here. Um, we're going to leave this blank. right? If we show them our hand now at the front end, we are really hurting our odds for a successful appeal at the back end. So it's and we have this is data driven. This is not just anecdotal. As those of you that know us, you know a lot of financial aid currently employed and former financial aid directors are part of our team. So we have, a lot of inside baseball information. And it's going to hurt us more than it's going to help us if we put anything on this part of the CSS profile, right? We're going to save this for the appeal. Okay. Very important. And again, a lot of families will cost themselves money, and it's not their fault. Like that's who would know about that if you didn't have some intel there. And of course, supplemental questions. Most colleges do not ask them. Very few of them are required. So we'll just kind of walk through that piece of it, and then finally, I got to pay my bill if I make more than $100,000, right? It's essentially $25 for the first school and $25 or $16 for each thereafter. And then, we show them kind of visual. Here's what your dashboard looks like after you submit it. Go ahead and download a copy for your files, etc. And then Peggy likes to show her cute dog, Ashlyn, here to just remind us that everything's going to be okay. Um, so that's kind of again the long and the short of it. Again, if you let me just kind of reshare these links here. If you didn't get them, if you weren't here in the beginning, I shared these in the beginning. But we are doing a line by line walkthrough tomorrow night, and then the last one, excuse me, for 2025, unless of course, we always reserve the rights to change our mind, but barring the unexpected, excuse me, the last line by line FAFSA and CSS profile walkthrough would do is on 10/22. So these are free rents. Feel free to share them with your families, with your parents, and then if and within their MyCap accounts, if they don't have one already, is the on demand kind of line by line um, instructions as well. So and then we give them the do we give them the slide? No, they'll get the recording. Even if they register for the event, we give all registrants the recording as well. Um, so that's kind of that is the task at hand for today. And again, hopefully helpful for you all to just get eyes on that and see some of the new UX. I'll tell you, on the whole, things are working really good. The best it's been from a tech standpoint. There's been some glitches and minor bugs and things like this, but on the whole, things are humming. So they've done a really good job in kind of righting the ship there. With whoever is involved with FAFSA. So they've come we're worlds better than we were this time 2 years ago. Um, and CSS profile is almost identical to last year. And then something we'll always flag too, right? For parents is like, hey, obviously all the FAFSA is the headline and CSS profile maybe a close second, but that doesn't mean that there's not colleges that have their own applications, right? Princeton, U Chicago, they have their own institutional applications, right? UPenn, in addition to the FAFSA and the CSS profile, their own institutional applications. So, obviously we'll be beating them over the head with like, we got to be good with deadlines, and we have to proactively see what financial aid applications the colleges that you're applying to require. And remember, it might be something in addition to the FAFSA and CSS or in lieu of the CSS. So um, the onus is on them to be on that. And obviously we're a resource and it's baked into our platform, etc. So any other particular questions? I'll hang around for a few minutes. Otherwise, we will dismiss class earlier, but like I said, I will hang around for a few minutes if there's any particular questions that are. And again, it doesn't have to be FAFSA or CSS related. Anything you want, fire at will, and I will do my best to get you squared away. All right, guys. It looks like we do not have any questions, but appreciate you. Okay. Can the parents refile their FAFSA after they get an SAI? Yeah, you can refile the FAFSA an unlimited number of times. You know, you can make corrections on the FAFSA again as many times as you need to, and it will update the SAI every time. You're almost guaranteeing that you're going to be chosen for verification if you make corrections on the FAFSA, but that's fine because maybe you made a mistake and you want to be verified, right? Go through that audit process of sorts, and if you make material changes, you'll get an updated SAI to reflect the new inputs or the corrections. The CSS profile, technically, they allow you to make a change, but it's only in paragraph form, and we find that it's incredibly rare that the colleges even see that. So I think the CSS profile did that to kind of scratch the itch and at least give the appearance that you can make changes to it. But we always recommend, hey, families, if you know you made a mistake on the CSS profile, contact the colleges directly to let them know, and then ask them, in addition to updating the CSS profile, what do you want us to do to right the wrong here? So that's best practice on that front. Well, thank you, Samantha. Samantha thinks we're awesome. I think you guys are awesome. All right, guys. Yeah, so we'll see you in a couple weeks. Have a great rest of October, please. Again, if you don't partner with us already, talk to us. Learn more about how we specifically support individual high schools, individual school counselors. Share our events and free resources with your families. And again, let me just put our kind of counselor. This is only for school counselors, counselor at college aidpro.com. I am putting this. Yeah, this is an email just for you guys. So we have multiple sets of eyes on this where we try to be very, very responsive. So if you counselors have any questions, email us on that, and we will get back to you. And appreciate you guys showing up as always, and we will see you in 2 weeks.